Did you know that one of rock's most legendary guitarists, the man who helped define the sound and image of Kiss, now lives a life filled with battles that no stage performance could ever prepare him for? At 74, Ace Frehley, the original Spaceman, faces a heartbreaking reality, a mix of fading health, old addictions, fractured friendships, and the cruel passage of time. Once idolized as a rock god, Ace's story is not just about fame, music, and wild tours, but also about loss, regret, and the personal struggles that never left him. Today, as fans look back at his decades-long career, the tragedy of Ace Frehley is clearer than ever, and it reveals the hidden cost of living life in the fast lane of rock and roll. Born Paul Daniel Frehley in the Bronx in 1951, Ace's childhood was rough, marked by poverty and rebellion. Music became his escape, and by the early 1970s, his guitar playing caught the attention of Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, and Peter Criss. Together they formed Kiss, one of the most iconic rock bands in history. Ace's Spaceman persona wasn't just makeup, it was a symbol of his otherworldly guitar skills and electrifying stage presence. His solos, his smoking guitars, and his eccentric energy made him a fan favorite. But behind the success, Ace was already battling personal demons that would one day haunt his career. The mid-1970s were Kiss's golden years. With albums like Destroyer and Love Gun, they dominated arenas worldwide. Ace's songwriting and guitar work helped shape their sound, particularly with his standout track, Shock Me, inspired by his real-life experience of being nearly electrocuted on stage. But along with fame came temptation. Ace quickly became known for his hard-partying lifestyle, indulging heavily in alcohol and drugs. While fans saw him as the life of the party, inside, the substance abuse was tearing him apart. The very excess that fueled his rock star image also started undermining his health and reliability. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, cracks began to show within the seemingly unstoppable force that was Kiss. Creative differences grew sharper as Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley asserted greater control over the band's direction, leaving Ace Frehley feeling sidelined and alienated. On top of that, the grueling demands of constant touring weighed heavily on him. His drinking, which had long been a coping mechanism, now started interfering with his ability to keep pace with the band. For Ace, the dream of rock stardom was beginning to blur into something darker and harder to sustain. In 1982, Ace made the decision to officially leave Kiss, a moment that sent shockwaves through the fanbase. For millions, the Spaceman wasn't just another member, he was an icon, a symbol of the band's rebellious spirit. His departure felt like losing a piece of Kiss itself. But for Ace, the split was both a relief and a gamble. He was free to pursue his own vision and regain creative control, yet he was also stepping into years of turbulence. His solo career began with sparks of promise, but the weight of addiction and personal demons prevented him from building long-term stability. Through the late 80s and beyond, Ace continued to release solo projects, including Frehley's Comet and later Anomaly. Many of these albums were praised for their inventive guitar work and signature style, proving he still had the talent to captivate fans. Yet inconsistency became a recurring theme. Missed shows, cancelled tours, and repeated trips to rehab overshadowed his achievements, creating a cycle of highs and lows that left fans both inspired by his brilliance and saddened by his struggles. Still, Ace Frehley never lost the love of his devoted followers. They admired him not just for his skill with the guitar, but for his unfiltered honesty and his refusal to play by anyone else's rules. Over the decades, it became clear that Ace's story was one of both triumph and tragedy, a legacy marked by groundbreaking contributions to rock music but haunted by battles that kept him from reaching his full potential. His life remains a bittersweet reminder of how genius and self-destruction can walk hand in hand. In 1996, fans rejoiced when Kiss reunited in full makeup with its original lineup. For a time, it felt like the magic of the 1970s had returned. Ace once again stood side by side with Simmons, Stanley, and Criss, thrilling arenas across the globe. But the reunion couldn't last. Old tensions resurfaced, and by the early 2000s Ace was gone from the band again. This time, it felt permanent. Kiss carried on with new members in his makeup, something Ace deeply resented. For many fans, the tragedy was not just that Ace left, but that his relationship with his bandmates was never fully repaired. As Ace entered his 60s and now his 70s, the years of excess began to catch up with him. Reports surfaced of health scares, exhaustion, and the lingering effects of decades of abuse. While he's been sober for stretches, staying on that path has been an ongoing battle. At 74, Ace no longer has the energy of the Spaceman fans remember. He still performs occasionally, but his appearances are fewer, and his physical fragility is more noticeable. For fans who grew up idolizing his unstoppable energy, seeing him now is a painful reminder that even legends are not immune to time. Despite making millions with Kiss, Ace has faced financial issues throughout his life. Failed business ventures, legal disputes, and the cost of addiction took a heavy toll on his fortune. Unlike Simmons and Stanley, who built empires, Ace's wealth was far less secure. The true tragedy of Ace Frehley's journey isn't just measured in the millions lost from mismanagement, failed ventures, or cancelled tours, it's in the countless opportunities that slipped away. With his talent, charisma, and devoted fan base, Ace had all the ingredients to stand alongside the greatest guitarists in rock history. Yet time and again, his struggles with addiction, self-sabotage, and conflicts within the industry held him back. Instead of building a massive solo empire after Kiss, he often found himself fighting uphill battles just to stay afloat, leaving fans wondering what heights he might have reached had he stayed on course. Away from the stage, Ace's personal life carried its own share of heartbreak. His marriage ended in divorce, and he often struggled to balance the relentless chaos of rock stardom with the responsibilities of fatherhood. His daughter, Monique, has spoken candidly about both her deep love for her father and the difficulties of growing up with him in the spotlight. The tension between the larger-than-life spaceman persona and the man behind the mask weighed heavily on their relationship, reflecting the personal toll of fame and addiction. For Ace, the shadows of his private life mirrored the turbulence of his career, a constant reminder that even legends pay a heavy price for the life they choose. For Ace, the personal losses weigh just as heavily as the professional ones. While he remains connected to family, the years of turmoil left scars that can never fully heal. It's another layer of tragedy in the story of a man who, for so many, seemed larger than life. Despite all the heartbreak, Ace Frehley's influence on music cannot be denied. Countless guitarists cite him as their inspiration. His riffs, his solos, and his unapologetic style left an indelible mark on rock and roll. Even outside of Kiss, his name is etched into the history of the genre. But his legacy is complicated. It is the story of a man who soared to incredible heights yet was continually pulled back by his demons. At 74, that duality defines Ace, a hero to millions, but also a tragic reminder of how the excess of rock stardom can consume even the brightest talents. Today, Ace Frehley lives a quieter life, performing occasionally and releasing new music here and there. But his days of headlining arenas with the same energy are long gone. For fans, the sight of their beloved spaceman struggling with age and fragility is heartbreaking. And yet, there is resilience. Ace continues to fight, to play, and to stay connected with the fans who never stopped believing in him. The tragedy of Ace Frehley is that his greatest battles were never with other musicians, but with himself. At 74, his story is a sobering reminder that behind the makeup and fame lies a man who gave everything to rock and roll, and paid a heavy price.